Broadcasting live from SETI Alpha 6 in the Andromeda Galaxy, this is Mr. C.
Well, we're looking at the weekend. We can see it from here, and it's a special day times two. Happy 1st of the month, October 1st. I thought we'd never get here, and I thought, to be honest, that it would be a whole lot cooler. Now it's cooling down in the morning. I had a wonderful walk this morning. My guess is the temperature outside of the bunker here in Bunkerland in Mesa, my guess is it was 70 degrees this morning when I started my walk, so nice and cool. So anyway, just a delightful walk. And then the most important reason, or the most important thing about October 1st, it is my grandson Xander's birthday today. So that's why I have on my Aloha shirt in celebration of Xander's birthday. Now, you've already got white sheets, and you've already numbered to 10. I've got 10 questions for you that I'm going to ask, and they're going to be the harder questions from LS2, 3, and 4, which you have a test on tomorrow. So I'll get back to that in just a minute. So homework in lesson planner, I'm getting a pen. So homework in your lesson planner, and your homework is just to triple R, and I mean triple R, to triple R LS2, 3, and 4. And then I'm going to ask a bunch of questions from that. And then what I've got to tell you about this is I've got to remind you about this. I know I've already said it. Let's see if told us already. You don't have to remind us again. I think I do. Okay. This is the last BFT of the quarter. Big fat test. This is it. So this is going to be your last chance in a big way to pull up your grade. So anyway, I was just grading some tests from last week, and some of you really need to do super well on this to pull your grade out of the doldrums, kind of in a low point. So what I'm telling you is triple R this. And I'm telling you, look, I have listed right here on my legal pad. I have listed right here on my legal pad all the topics that are on the BFT. They're listed right here. I've already said, study LS2, 3, and 4. Psalm 139, 13, and 14. I've reviewed that with you so many times. And its meaning. So study it, get your verse sheet out, and study it. Go over it and over it and over it. What's the major meaning of Psalm 139, 13, and 14? It's just such a beautiful 2 verses. What does it mean? It means God designed you, and God designed me, and God designed everybody using our DNA. Designed by DNA. And God shows what DNA pattern, what specific pattern we would have. So pretty cool. And then LS2, 3, and 4. So, and I'm going to ask you some of the harder questions from LS2, 3, and 4, and go over things in a little bit. And I've got a little video to show you on eclipses. It'll be a good review for you. I'm going to review them using my model, of course. Of course. So, don't you love my model? My model of the sun, the moon, and the earth. You know how much I love it. And then the moon's phases. So the moon's phases, and I have a page number for you too, to where you can study in your textbook the moon's phases. So how much time do I recommend that you go over all of this? My recommendation is that you probably review 15-20 minutes. I mean, really go over them. So, Mr. C, are you going to go over the specific topics on each lesson summary? I am. First, I want to go over this. I want to go over the phases of the moon and eclipses. And then I've got an exciting announcement about a total solar eclipse that's going to occur in 2024. And I'll say some more things about that in a minute. All right, the phases of the moon. How many are there? 8. And I'm going to ask you these. I'm going to ask you for the specifics on these phases. So, here we go. So the first phase of the moon, and by the way I'll probably do this, tomorrow at the beginning of the video, I'll use this, and on your test, you will have to write down the name of each phase. Will you have the names of the phases down? I will. So you're going to have to match them. A little bit easier. That'll be cool. All right, obviously you need the sun for light. So the sun is shining its light on the moon and on the earth and causing these different phases or different amounts of the moon to be lit up. Here we go. So here they are. This is the first phase of the moon. The sun is shining on the back side of the moon. We on the earth, looking out, see a darkened face of the moon. This is the first phase. So, a good name for it is the new moon. It's the new moon as it's starting its journey around the earth, which takes about 29 days. I'm not going to ask that. But as the moon revolves around the earth, different amounts of it get lit up. All right, new moon. Then it moves right over here about 3.5 days. So, or 4 days. What is it? Okay. Now, remember, it's growing as far as how much is lit up. So what's the word? And I'll ask you these. And you better write these down on your lesson summary where the moon's phases are. So find it. You've got it out in front of you. The phases of the moon. What is the term for gradually being lit up more and more and more? That term is waxing. Waxing, 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 waxing. So as it gets lit up more, this is a waxing crescent. When we see the moon, it's a crescent shape. Crescent shape. Okay? So new moon, waxing crescent, and then 1/4 the way around the earth in its orbit. First quarter moon, 1/4 quarter. And then it continues to wax or get lit up more and more, so it moves over into this position right here. Now it's almost full. There's a name for almost full. Have you written it down? It's gibbous. This is a waxing gibbous. G-I-B-O-U-S, maybe 2 B's. A waxing gibbous. It's on its way to becoming full. And then halfway around in its revolution around the earth, right there. And because the moon doesn't have an exactly flat orbit or revolution around the earth, it's tilted a little bit, so it's up a little higher so it can be lit up fully. What do you call it? Full moon. It's fully lit. So full moon there. Now it's on the waning side. Waning, 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 waning. Waxing, 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 waxing. Waning, 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 waning. So it's a waning gibbous. It used to be full, not anymore, but it's close. Close to being full. Waning gibbous. You saying these to yourself? Then 3/4 of the way around. What is it? Third quarter. 3/4 or 3/4 the way around. It continues to wane. Over here, it's a waning crescent. Again, you see that crescent shape. And then, after 29 days, right there, back to new moon. Could you go over those again one more time? Sure, here they are. New moon, waxing, say it out loud, crescent, 1/4 the way around, first quarter, continuing to wax. It's almost full, so it's a gibbous moon, almost full. So a waxing gibbous, now it's fully lit right there. Fully lit. What do you call it? Full moon, of course. Now it's waning. Waning, it's being lit up less. It's gibbous because it's almost full. A waning gibbous, 3/4 the way around. What is it? Say it out loud in class. Third quarter, continues to wane. It's a crescent. A waning crescent right there. Now, you're going to write this page down. This page has the diagrams. So you're going to write this down, and you're going to find this on, you're going to put this on LS4, where it says phases. Right above phases on LS4, if you will write down page 24, page 24. On page 24, there it is, 24. You have the diagrams of the phases on 24. So cool. Okay. Now, I'm also going to ask you about solar and lunar eclipses, and I'm going to talk about those in a little bit. So on LS4, where the bottom box, it talks about eclipses. There are two kinds of eclipses. I've gone over these. I want you to see them again. Okay. At new moon position, not exactly, because remember the moon's orbit is not flat. It's tilted a bit. At this position right here, when the sun's rays are being blocked and not hitting the earth exactly, there's a shadow of the moon cast on the earth. Now, the way you know what kind of eclipse it is, whose light is being cut off? Eclipse, cut off. Whose light's being cut off right here on the earth? The moon's blocking light from the sun. So this is a, what's the word for sun? Solar. A solar eclipse. A solar eclipse. Now, if you're in the little bitty shadow on the earth, as the earth rotates, you'd only be in that shadow 3 minutes maybe. You have the privilege, if everything lines up just right, of being in what is called the path of totality. You're in the path of the shadow of the moon, where it is a total solar eclipse. The moon totally covers the surface of the sun. How can that be? Because the moon, even though it's small, is a long way away from the sun. It's close to the earth, so in this relatively close position, it's perfectly positioned just right to totally cover the sun's surface, because it's way away from the sun. And if you're fortunate to be in the shadow, the exact shadow for those 3 minutes, it's a big deal. a total solar eclipse. And any one place on the earth, I'm not going to ask this, but it's cool. Any one place on the earth only has a total solar eclipse, any one location, like Lincoln, Nebraska, like Tempe, Arizona. Every 400 years. Because it's got to be just right. The moon's shadow has to be just covering your specific place. Now the next one, it's coming up right now, you can see it. The path of totality in the 2024 solar eclipse is going to go right through, not Arizona. You can see that it's going to go right through Texas. Do you see the red line there? So where that red line is the path of totality. Now in our family, we've talked about this. We've talked about traveling to Texas and perhaps doing a twofer, perhaps going to Magnolia, which is a couple that used to be on HGTV that do a program, I think it's called Fixer Upper, where they fix houses. Anyway, it's in Waco. So the path of totality is going right through Waco. So we're thinking about maybe doing Magnolia, the Fixer Upper place, and at the same time checking out the total solar eclipse. We'll have to plan it just right. It's April, I think the 8th of 2024. So anyway, perhaps we will get to do it. Maybe so. 3.5 years away, something like that. Okay. So this is a solar eclipse. Sun, moon blocking the sun, shadow on the earth, solar eclipse. Over in this position, now the earth is blocking sunlight from hitting the moon. So the moon is blocked out. It was the sun over here, part of it blocked out. Now the moon's blocked. So on the earth, we look out at the moon, it's dark or darker. So there are several kinds of lunar eclipses, actually several kinds of solar eclipses as well. In Latin, lunar means moon. So the moon's light is cut off by the earth. So that position. Okay. All right, now on LS4, here's what I'd like you to do. I don't know, can you see these? Okay. Can you see my diagrams? I'll do this one first. See this one? Tilt it. That's a lunar eclipse. So quickly make a lunar eclipse on LS4. Show the sun, then the earth blocking light to the moon, and then write lunar. Lunar eclipse. Quickly, do it quickly. Don't dilly-dally. Sun. Don't do details, just rough it out. Now, if Mr. Gilbert needs to give you a little time and a little while to do this, to make sure these drawings are done, that'll be fine. There we go. And then over here, you can do it, Mr. C, a solar eclipse. You've got the sun, and then the moon, so draw a solar eclipse, label it solar, S-O-L-A-R. So sun, then the moon blocking, there's the shadow on the earth. Label each. Looks like I didn't label the earth. Okay. Now, if you didn't have time to get those, okay, this is a great time right now take a little break. Let Mr. Gilbert answer any questions. Get your 2 drawings of the solar and lunar eclipse finished. Mr. Gilbert will help with that. Help each other. Make sure you've got them right. Okay, hope you got all those things done. Hope you got them all. Okay, so anyway, I want to, so eclipses will be on the test. Phases of the moon will be on the test. And then I have just enough time to tell you one more time. So you've got LS2 out. So have LS2 out, LS3 and LS4. I'm just going to review, and you're going to circle the key things that I'm going to ask you from LS2. You've already got these circled, but I'm just going over it one more time to make sure you've got it. Rotation and revolution in the top box of LS2. Rotation and revolution. Show me on your hands rotation. Show me on your hands. It's just spinning, rotation. Rotate, rotate, rotate. The earth rotates, the moon rotates, the sun rotates. Okay, rotation. Now, when one object goes around another, what do you call that? Revolution. So you've highlighted it. Okay, highlight orbit. Orbit, right over here. Orbit. It's just the path one object has around another. The orbit. Down below, just the causes of the seasons, the 2 causes of the seasons on LS. I'm sorry, this is 2 now, LS2. So rotation, revolution, orbit. Then you've got the 2 causes of the seasons, Earth's tilt, northern hemisphere tilted towards summer solstice, tilted away, winter solstice. So solstice, winter, summer, and then the equinox, equal dusk, darkness, and equal daylight. Spring and fall equinox, 6 months apart. All right, LS3. Double check. I think you've got these red dotted. I'm just going over it one more time to make sure you've got this nailed. Mr. Gilbert will make sure at the end too that you've got all this dialed in. A push or pull is a force. I was hoping I'd have time to ask you 10 difficult questions, but I'm just not going to have time. So a force is a push or pull. The force that one object has as it pulls on another one due to its mass is called gravity. Isaac Newton said that every object in the universe attracts every other object. That's the universal law of gravitation. Universal law of gravitation. And there are 2 factors that cause the gravity to be more, and they're both located right here. They're located right there. What makes gravity more or less one object on another? Number 1, it's mass, how many atoms it has, and how close it is to the other object it's pulling on. So distance, the closer it is, the more pull, and the more mass it has, the more gravity it has. And those are both stated right here. The strength and the force of gravity between 2 objects depends on the masses of the objects and the distance between them. Okay? How hard you're pulled is your weight. So when you're standing on scales, weight scales, if you move those scales around in the solar system between Earth and say on Mars or on Jupiter, you're going to be pulled with a different force because of the mass of the planets. It's different. Okay? So mass and weight, you've got those. And then down below, inertia and Newton's law of inertia, his first law of motion, which I'll go over in just a minute. Inertia. Inertia is the tendency of an object. Look at this. The tendency of this model not to move. That's its inertia. If it's not moving, it will tend not to move unless it's acted upon by a force like me. I'm the push. Now, if it's moving, it'll tend to keep moving, the other definition for inertia, as long as there is a force applied to it. As soon as the force isn't applied, it'll stop moving. Moving objects tend to keep moving in the same direction at the same speed or velocity, unless they're acted upon by a force, a push, or a pull. And that was Newton's first law of motion, which you see right here, right there. Newton's first law of motion. An object in motion tends to keep moving in a straight line with the same velocity unless acted upon by force. An object that's not moving tends to continue not to move unless it's acted upon by a force. The law of inertia, or the first law, Newton's first law of motion or moving objects. Now, I just want to make the point. Every object in the universe was given a push at creation. It started to move. The sun was given a push. How fast is it moving now? About almost 500,000 miles an hour, 500,000 miles an hour. How fast is the moon moving? The moon is moving 2,288 miles an hour. How fast is the earth moving? 66,600 something miles an hour. Everything has a precise speed that God gave it when he created everything. It was given an initial push, and it's going to keep moving like it does at that speed unless it's acted upon by a force, which I don't want the earth to change speeds at all. Do you? That would not be good. Okay? So anyway, all designed by God, their speeds and their positioning in the galaxy and in the universe, not an accident. Now, I'm keeping an eye on the time, and then LS4 is all about eclipses and the phases of the moon. So, make sure you review all of that. Make sure you study all of that. Okay? Now, I've got a little video for you about, and this is about solar eclipses. I think you're going to enjoy it. So you'll watch the video, and then Mr. Gilbert will probably make a decision to let you work on one more question activity in the back. And then the other group will study for the test in one form or fashion or another. Okay? I'll be back with you tomorrow on Happy Aloha Friday. Today we're going to celebrate Xander's birthday. It's going to be a lot of fun, and there are lots of plans afoot. Now, I cannot remind you strongly enough to triple R for your test. If you triple R, you'll do well. If you triple R really well, you'll do really well. You'll get an A or a high B. So triple R and make it happen. Okay? I will see you on Happy Aloha Friday. Adios.